This is Sonia Luna over at Aviva Spectrum, and today I want to talk about the new California cannabis cultivation regulations. And today I'm just going to cover a quick overview of both the state level regulatory compliance needs in cultivation, as well as some of the metropolitan city requirements that I'm seeing in some large counties. Now, let's take a look at the actual State Department. You have the California Cannabis Cultivation Licensing Department. Now, this department actually has three different branches, the first of which is just dealing with licensing, and they are responsible for your initial and renewal process and also the appeals process. Another branch is dealing with the compliance and enforcement. So these are the individuals that will be able to come on site, review your various documentation as you're operating, as well as interpreting some of the rules regarding compliance. And then there's the administrative branch. They are going to be dealing mainly with fees and some other compliance requirements. So I put them in the quote like other bucket. Here is some wonderful news. There is actually free help that this department offers. You can send your questions to the department, and here's that email address. I'll have it in the link below, meaning the description of this video down below. And there is actually wonderful videos that they've done for licensing, and it's actual step-by-step instructional videos for the temporary licensing process. Now, I want you to subscribe to our channel because of two main reasons. I'm going to have an update to this because a lot of you have had some areas of concern when it comes to the initial license process. And I'm going to highlight some key components of the licensing criteria for you in a simplified manner, but please subscribe to our channel so that way you'll get the latest information on the licensing process and for cultivators in California. Now, the registration process also has its own step-by-step video. I will also, in this YouTube video that I have, I'll put a link to this training video as well for you. Now, let's talk about track and trace and some of the free information items out there. There is actually a frequently asked question PDF file. Again, you can get a link to it in the description of this video. It's a pretty healthy 12 pages, and it covers some of the basic questions on the track and trace model and how it complies with the California regs. I've attached a sample of the sales and shipping manifest form that the state wants you to have. I'll have a link to this PDF in the description of this video so you can take a look at it. I'm going to cover a little areas that I know that they are going to audit for regulatory and obviously for tax purposes. The first of which is you're using the right distributor, right? They want matching one for one. What do I mean by that specifically? That your distributor ID and their process of tracking the tax payments is matched up to what you have. What I want to show you is other key areas that they will look to audit when they look for your manifest and shipping documentation. This retail value comes up in several parts of the form. They have already regulated this unit of measure, what is retail value for cultivators. So I want you to be very careful how you're interpreting and becoming compliant with that specific numeric computation. Here it is again on some of the product shipping details, this retail value in the manifest. This is the actual bottom piece of their template. And I'm stressing this because it not only comes in one area, but a couple of other areas within the form. And you can attach other supporting details to this form if you have other pertinent information to the products that you're shipping out. Weighing your cannabis is very much regulated. I have listed here from page 27 of 63 for the state of California that your device has to be registered, and there's a specific registration process, number one. Number two, in terms of weighing your cannabis using wet weight or net weight, and you'll see here that they offer that you have a choice as well as the type of measure, whether you're using US customary units or international standards. The other part is I want to make sure you're aware that you are licensed as a weigh master, and they reference actually some professional codes that you have to comply with. I only mention it as a point of reference. I'm sure your attorneys are kind of walking you through of what that means, but here it is. I wanted to highlight that for you cultivators, just so you understand that weighing your cannabis doesn't mean that you just comply with the state. You're actually complying by reference here to other regulatory compliance needs. Now I wanted to talk about what I'm seeing trend-wise with metropolitan areas for cultivators. I'm noticing a very consistent theme that the fire and police department get involved. They get involved in various capacities. The fire department is checking, hazardous waste materials, water-related items, safety in terms of exit and entrance strategies in case an emergency or fire were to break out, etc. The police, it's pretty obvious. It's your security and alarm system. And most metropolitan areas do have a registration process and a permit process, not to mention a fee process. For LA, I noticed that they had a process of reporting. It says here, hazardous material business plans are required to be submitted annually by March 1st, and they want you to do it online. And then in terms of the annual fee registration and renewals, LA has a pretty convenient way. It's through the Office of Finance that you go to their website. I'll have a link below for those of you who are cultivating in the LA County and you have to abide by the LA County rules and regs. I'll have a link to this site as well as the California Environmental Reporting System that the fire departments are using to submit certain business plans. Now let's talk about security and what I'm seeing trend-wise. Outside perimeters, your basic entry, exit, shipping, receiving areas. Inside, I'm seeing a very consistent trend that even inside, especially where things are being weighed, where waste material might be produced, and even some limited or secure areas that you've designated in your grow. The limited areas, I'm also seeing a requirement of having a check-in log for those individuals that must be 21 and over in terms of their age, of them coming in and out of these, quote, very, very sensitive, let's say restricted areas. Most of you know what those areas are, but this log, this audit log that I see checking in and out of those, let's say, guests that come in, needs to be provided if the local regulatory agencies were to be knocking on your door and show up. So check with your local authority about the log and what needs to be on there. We've seen it in a lot of publicly traded companies when it comes to IT database like servers, etc. So we kind of know what other regulators like to see and what is best of breed in terms of these, quote, individual logs when contractors come in and out of a facility that's deemed very, very sensitive and highly secure. Testing areas. Now, when it comes to testing, I put out a LA County reg here that said that some of the labeling provisions, they're going to kind of hold off on doing, mandating that everything be done by January 1st. You can see that they know there's a period of time when you need to get your license, but then they're giving you a little bit more wiggle room in terms of having an extra, obviously, set of days. In this case, it's actually a few months to get this. I point out that the violation, this alone on just labeling, okay, is a serious violation. And your attorneys have probably already talked to you about what is, a minor violation, a moderate, and a serious. So I only point this out because it is serious, and I think people from a cultivator's perspective are wondering, well, when do I really need to get all these labels on every single thing down pat? And I listed one metropolitan area here from LA of what the timeline is. Now I wanted to talk about just general business area compliance requirements I'm seeing at some cities. I'm seeing a lot of loitering requirements, meaning you either have a sign or have fences to prevent loitering, um, or even some training to tell your employees they can't loiter on the premises after hours. I'm also seeing graffiti removal. Cities want a healthy business environment, and they want to make sure cannabis is one of those great corporate citizens, and they don't want buildings looking shabby. Also, rooftop equipment, keeping things aesthetically, pleasing for everybody, not only, your space, but, how the neighbors kind of see that. I'm seeing that as a common trend as well. And then the neighborhood liaison. I'm seeing this in much larger cities, and where to place that information is different city to city, county to county, but I do see a trend in terms of, hey, if someone's got a problem in the neighborhood with your business, there should be a point person to kind of go to you for, let's say, an issue or a concern that they'd like to raise with your company. I'm going to state this again in a prior video, employee versus contractor. Some cultivators believe that, well, even if I have a contractor, some of these rules and regs don't apply. Uh, just remember, according to the regs, the state of California and local authorities don't care if for payroll purposes you're paying them as a contractor. For the regs, those contractors have to act like as if they're employees. So they may state employee throughout the reg, but even if you pay them as a contractor, that doesn't matter to the state and some of the local officials. They are saying that those contractors have to act as if they're an employee and follow all the regs as well. I want to make sure that you understand that when orders take place, your distributor must also be compliant when they place these orders, and they have to be compliant with their own unique ID numbers, and they have to match into your system. Now, who's doing what, when, timing, etc. The track and trace you'll start seeing in the FAQ document, as well as some other parts of the reg, that keeping track of who did what, when, and the timing of what the process was. So for example, if an individual was responsible for trimming and another one was doing drying and then also helped with the weighing, all of that should be tracked, and you will start seeing that more and more as the state starts firming up their intentions of this track and trace. It's this individual, accountability. So I'm seeing a lot of software companies adopt already right now very sophisticated logging of who's doing what when, and then the timing of it, and then the tracking of the actual amounts. ID badges. I just want to stress that your contractors need them as well. And in terms of the employer information, there's some basic stuff that you need to have on there. Invoicing in the manifest, I've already shared what a sample of what the state wants, and there are over 9+ different items there. The name and address of various employees, you can see that that's becoming a common trend. I already mentioned about some of the preparing, delivering, doing certain workloads within the cultivation process needs to start being honed in on. Dates, timings, amounts, etc., of those people that are actually conducting that part of the process. And then fees, taxes, other um, amounts are being tracked. I've already shared with you some of the more important areas that they have regulated, and they're telling you how to calculate the amount for cultivators. So it's very important to be very conscious of this. And the receipt, signatures, record keeping. So make sure you're aligning yourself with the right accountants and advisors that understand, who needs to sign what, the record keeping process, and where that is being securely stored for your business. Now, another trend I'm seeing in terms of hours of operations, as business owners, some of you are, working around the clock, right? It seems like it's 24/7, weekends included. I'm noticing that at the local level, they are hammering out when business can actually be conducted for cultivators. So be conscious of that. And especially if there's any changes at the local level, as we are starting to hear that that's starting to change a little bit. I wanted to leave you with our complementary analysis. We have been in the business in both the outsourced accounting practice, but some of the compliance efforts related to highly regulated industries. We have an intake analysis. It's a listing for cultivators of 17 questions. It takes about 45 minutes of the discussions, and it's with me personally. I go through those answers and I review and I benchmark you to some of the state regs, and then I go through some of your county regs, and I'm looking to see, well, where it's going to impact some of your financial accounting accounts, but also some of the documentation you're going to need to be required to produce, let's say quarterly, some of it could be annually, etc. And then I give you kind of a consultative report, and this kind of gives you a list of ideas, solutions, some of the areas of improvement for your growth in 2018 and beyond. You can email me at info@avivaspectrum.com and put in the subject header accounting analysis, because I do this twice a month for those in the industry. It's my way of giving back. You can already connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can even see some written recommendations from master growers that have I've done some consulting advice for them, and you can see the nature of the advice that I've been providing to this industry. So I hope that I get to meet some of you, we get to collaborate, and more importantly, before you head out, I want you to be also conscious of some of the best of breed items that we have to offer our clients. So we have actually built in our 14 years probably over 200 different types of compliance programs. And it all starts with, usually the CEO or CFO, and they have an idea of their operations and they believe they have a pretty good grasp of some of the general compliance areas. We like to optimize a lot of those operations using best of breed equipment that integrates into both your, let's say, track and trace software, but also plugs into the accounting programs that we've been using. And on the delivery side and distribution side, just know that just because the distributor is obligated to collect those taxes and remit them to the state, I want to make sure that you understand that you are still technically legally liable if they don't make that payment, okay, that they're supposed to on time. So I hope you have the right compliance programs and accounting personnel that understands that getting that receipt, tracking it, and saving it for your records is very critical in terms of your compliance and accounting program. And security. We have been IT auditors for various systems, huge systems like Oracle, SAP, just to name a few. But we've also audited some compliance IT systems. So our firm is uniquely placed in this cannabis cultivation hub where we know how secure regulators are going to want in terms of your data. I hope that we get to connect in the next couple of months with this complementary analysis. You can just, hopefully you've heard my voice, my passion into this industry, and I look forward to connecting with you soon. So let's connect. LinkedIn is by far the best way to connect with me. You can reach me at info@avivaspectrum.com, and let's get together, let's connect, because I do schedule twice a month these complimentary analysis, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.